Alan Wake is one of the most original games I have ever played. It seems like in the last few years, it's been having a resurgence. I remember when Alan Wake first came out, it received positive reviews and was liked by players, but never managed to become a huge hit. Even the developers, Remedy Entertainment, said that while they loved the positive reception the game got, financially it didn't do as well as they expected, which is why it took them 11 years to finally continue the story with Alan Wake 2.
Hey, you're finally awake.
Despite it never really taking off, it did amass a loyal fan following and turned into a cult classic, especially within the horror gaming genre. Alan Wake is a masterful work of art that excels in its ability to create an amazing, tense, suspenseful, and intriguing gaming experience. But what exactly makes Alan Wake such an amazing game? The most important part of this game, in my opinion, is its atmosphere and aesthetic. While the story is amazing and certainly one of the main reasons why this game is so good and why it has such a loyal following, it wouldn't be nearly as popular if it didn't portray a certain aesthetic that blended perfectly with its creepy and unsettling atmosphere. In the gaming world, narrative-driven experiences often place immense emphasis on a captivating story, and rightfully so. However, in the case of Alan Wake, the atmosphere and aesthetic take center stage. This game draws heavily from various horror and mystery elements from pop culture, with the most notable being Stephen King, Twin Peaks, X-Files, Twilight Zone, and H.P. Lovecraft. Bright Falls is an idyllic small town with friendly people, amazing donuts, and a coffee to die for. But just like in Twin Peaks, beneath this idyllic facade lies an ocean of darkness. It feels familiar and unsettling. This is where its aesthetic comes into play. During the day, you're greeted with serene landscapes, lush forests, and tranquil waterscapes that evoke a sense of peace and serenity. The game's attention to environmental details is breathing life into Bright Falls, making it an integral part of the overall experience. The serene landscapes and serene waterscapes during the day offer moments of respite, while the hauntingly beautiful and eerie forests, abandoned buildings, and surreal settings during the night provide a sense of exploration and discovery. But as night falls, brace yourself for a dynamic shift. The lighting system takes center stage, casting eerie shadows that heighten the tension and fear. The contrast between light and shadows adds an intense atmosphere, keeping you on edge as you navigate through the darkness. There are moments where you'll be running through the forest, and in the distance you'll see the neon sign of a gas or radio station shine brightly. The light penetrates the fog and illuminates your path. All the while, somewhere in the bushes or behind rocks, a possessed maniac with an axe waits to jump and whack you. I remember a moment where I randomly stopped and just admired the scenery. It was night, a strong fog all around Alan. The moon stood high and illuminated the entire area. Mixed with Alan's flashlight fighting to penetrate the fog and darkness, it creates an eerie and creepy aesthetic. Despite being creepy and tense, these moments have a certain beauty about them. You could easily screenshot them and consider the pictures a work of art. Maybe you're in a lonely abandoned cabin somewhere in the woods at night, watching a Twilight Zone inspired show, while slow notes of foreboding violence keep you on edge as you see shadows pass by the window. But when you run outside to check, there's nothing there. This is one of the moments that honestly creeped the hell out of me because I wasn't expecting it at all, since this was still in the safe zone. But this just further reinforces the fact that you are never truly safe in Alan Wake. This is by far the most unsettling thing about this game. Oftentimes, when you get attacked or ambushed by the Taken, the game will let you know either by pointing towards them or playing intense combat music. But sometimes, it won't do anything. On a few occasions, I was exploring the world and all of a sudden I hear footsteps coming closer and closer, and when I turn around, the enemy is almost right in my face, giving me barely enough time to react. This is creepy enough in the woods, where it's really hard to make out enemies since your mind starts confusing every single bush or tree for a taken. But in buildings, which are almost all claustrophobic in Alan Wake, this gets 10 times worse as you can hear doors open, wooden floors creak, but you don't see anything until it's too late. At night, darkness will be all around you, and the enemies you'll encounter will be muttering and whispering all kinds of things. This will happen so often that even when there's no one around, the dark shadows around you will sound as if they are enemies. Despite Alan Wake having an amazing story, it's the immersive atmosphere and aesthetic that heightens the emotional impact of the narrative. The game pays homage to classic thriller and horror works, incorporating elements from iconic shows like The Twilight Zone or Twin Peaks, while still crafting its own unique identity. The Twilight Zone series is known for its eerie and thought-provoking tales. Alan Wake embraces a similar episodic structure akin to the Twilight Zone's self-contained stories, each with its own suspenseful conclusion and unexpected twists. Remedy, the developers, even created a fictional TV series called Night Springs, which is basically Alan Wake's version of The Twilight Zone, even featuring a very similar intro and narrator voice reminiscent of Rod Sterling. You can watch the show in-game when you'll occasionally be stumbling across TV sets that you can turn on. There are 10 episodes in total, and some of them actually reflect or foreshadowed certain events in the story. Another massive influence is Twin Peaks. This show might even be the sole reason Alan Wake exists, or at least looks the way it does. The game shares striking similarities with Twin Peaks in its portrayal of a small, secluded town, Bright Falls, with its quirky and enigmatic inhabitants and hidden secrets. Alan Wake embraces the concept of duality much like Twin Peaks. The game explores the idea of parallel worlds, alternative realities, and the interplay between light and darkness. These themes resonate with the duality and symbolism present in Twin Peaks, where the line between good and evil blurs and the supernatural intertwines with the ordinary. Stephen King gets mentioned frequently. Even the opening cutscene of the game starts out with Alan quoting King. Alan also thinks of King after encountering a poltergeist for the first time, commenting that objects often come to life and act malevolently towards humans in King's works, such as Christine, a novel about an evil car. And last but not least, the influence of H.P. Lovecraft can be felt throughout the story and gameplay. Lovecraft was known for writing cosmic horror where eldritch beings control events on Earth and in the universe without you being able to influence or change anything. The idea of people mentally connected in dreams is a similar concept explored in The Call of Cthulhu. In the novel The Alan Wake Files, there are several hints at the possibility that Alan Wake, Clay Stewart, and Agent Nightingale share the same ominous dreams and visions. The dreams of these men, with the possible exception of Agent Nightingale, are influenced by the Dark Presence and feature a marine setting, as can be seen with the lighthouse in the first chapter of the Alan Wake game. This focus on a marine setting is similar to the Call of Cthulhu, in which a handful of artists from all over the world share the same nightmarish visions as Cthulhu whispers in their sleep. The story revolves around Alan Wake, a successful thriller horror novelist who is struggling with writer's block. Seeking inspiration, he and his wife Alice decide to take a vacation to the small, picturesque town of Bright Falls in the Pacific Northwest. However, their peaceful retreat quickly turns into a nightmare as Alice goes missing under mysterious circumstances, getting kidnapped by a dark force. Desperate to find his wife, Alan becomes entangled in a series of events that blur the lines between reality and fiction. He discovers that his own work, a novel he can't remember writing, is coming to life and the horrors he penned are manifesting in the real world. The story is fantastic and exactly what you would expect from a game that takes massive inspirations from Stephen King and the Twilight Zone. The game's story has a very strong Twilight Zone feel to it, especially the part where you constantly find manuscript pages of a novel Alan can't remember writing, and those pages foreshadowing and predicting future events as well as giving you lore bits. This goes so far as to even characters from the game commenting on how strange it is that they've read a page from the manuscript describing exactly what just happened and sometimes their death. The line between the real world and the world of his own creation blurs, leaving Alan questioning what is real and what is a figment of his imagination. There are even moments where the game itself tries to convince you that Alan is crazy or just hallucinating, either due to the loss of his wife or because his imagination took over his mind. Throughout the game, there are situations where you see TV sets randomly turn on that show Alan writing the manuscript in some cabin while talking to himself and what appears to be him growing crazy. Remedy created an amazing story that gets better with each replay. Every time I replay the game, I notice new details and see events with different eyes. There are two DLCs for Alan Wake, The Signal and The Writer. These DLCs are short and don't add much, but they do fill out the lore more and hint at future events, such as those in American Nightmare. The Signal DLC serves as a direct follow-up to the events of the main game. Picking up where the narrative left off, you will find yourself in a surreal and ever-shifting reality known as the Dark Place. This expansion emphasizes the psychological turmoil Alan Wake faces as he grapples with the darkness that has consumed him. The Dark Place lies within the heart of the Dark Presence that you are fighting in the main game. It's a realm of absolute insanity where anything can happen so randomly you won't realize what bit you until it's too late. This DLC has far more psychological horror elements, such as TVs turning on, showing eyes, and Alan going mad, fearful, and suicidal. You have no idea what's going on and are forced to follow a signal laid out by one of the characters you meet in the main game. The DLC amplifies a sense of unreality, blurring the boundaries between imagination and reality, and immersing you in a nightmarish journey that challenges your perception of what is true. From a pure visual point of view, it does look amazing and did remind me of Stranger Things at times, especially when the world was falling apart, changing and shifting. It gives off a haunting atmosphere you'd expect to see in something like X-Files or a Stephen King movie. Continuing the story, the Writer DLC takes you even deeper into the Dark Place and directly follows up events that happened in The Signal. Alan Wake is one of the best narrative games ever made and absolutely deserves its status as a cult classic. Its captivating narrative, tense atmosphere, and suspenseful gameplay combine to create an unforgettable experience that leaves you thoroughly immersed in its haunting world. It has one of the best atmospheres I've experienced and was a blast to play. Thanks to Alan Wake, I actually decided to binge Twin Peaks for the first time in my life, as even for someone who only heard about the show, the references in the game were so strong I had to give it a watch so I could understand and catch all the Easter eggs and similarities. In fact, I plan on making an entire video on all the pop culture references in Alan Wake and in American Nightmare, as there are a lot more than people realize. I can recommend Alan Wake to anyone that loves a good mystery and just wants to play a linear and straightforward game.